is free sequence? It is the easy, fast, and Moderna way to write and read music, the creation of which is based on: first, the teaching. The daily relationship of its creator, Ernesto Rueda, with music teaching to children and young people, dissatisfied with the few results of traditional methods of instruction, and looking for the best way to convey the understanding and fondness for music. Second, MIDI system. It is a technological pattern that describes a language, serves for various electronic musical instruments, computers and other related devices, sequencers, to communicate with each other when connected. Sequencer. It is a computer equipment of composition, programming and reproduction of musical events, in a sequential way. It can handle various electronic musical instruments, players, synthesizers, drum machines, signal processors, etc., through a logical control interface. Their language is MIDI. A curious fact is that the most primitive sequencer is the music box. The music with dots is stored sequentially on its roller. Third, the science of vocalization. The instrument that nature has endowed the human being to produce sounds is the word. And every newborn from anywhere in the world babbles the syllable ma, since it is an information imprinted on the consciousness. The ancient study of this information is known as vocalization, which is used for medical. In this science, ellipsis is used to lengthen the duration of the vowel sound. Otherwise, a single point. But first we have to take into account certain backgrounds and understand what music is. The music. They are low, high, and silent sounds in an exact time, with laws of harmony and rhythm. Writing is a great invention of the human being, which serves to transmit knowledge, ideas, feelings through time and space. Since through it you can transmit feelings, emotions, and moods to anyone anywhere in the world. Moreover, conventional musical reading with sheet music is not universal, because not anyone from anywhere in the world can read and interpret with the naked eye. Historical background. Musicians from all latitudes have tried to perpetuate their works with a musical writing for the new generations through the ages, due to an obscurantism that crossed science, art, and religion since the burning of the largest library of the ancient world in Alexandria. Little is known about ancient cultures such as Egyptian, Roman, Celtic, Chinese, Greek, Mesopotamian, and Indo-American cultures such as Aztecs, Incas, etc. Civilizations, which, through their writing and language forms, tried to translate their hymns and melodies. As I said before, the Library of Alexandria, with papyri and codices of the ancient world, was founded in the 3rd century BC and was looted, burned, and destroyed in 416. And it is the clearest example of the loss of ancient wisdom. The Greek philosopher Plato said in his book Laws that the Egyptians had a broad musical theory. Let's remember that Plato was Aristotle's teacher and this one, Alexander the Great's teacher, the mentalizer of the library. Another example is the one made by Diego de Landa, Bishop of Yucatan and Guatemala in 1561. Despite trying to evangelize the Mayans, they persisted in keeping their ancient cult secret. He formed an inquisitorial tribunal, with interrogations and torture of natives. Christianity imposed on July 12, 1562 with the destruction at the stake of 5,000 idols and sacred objects, Mayan codices, with 27 scrolls of signs and undeciphered hieroglyphs. Ancient musical writings. Chironymia in ancient Egypt. In Egyptian reliefs it represents musicians playing 2 different notes simultaneously, following the conductor, who, through a musical language based on signs with his hands, indicated the height and the specific notes to the interpreter. In the mastabas, which is a type of ancient Egyptian tombs, there is the musical iconography of the chironoma. It is a musical language system that we currently ignore. In Mesopotamia, music was religious with a wealth of voices and sounds. Their gods symbolized as musical instruments. In the 1950 Hurrian area cuneiform clay tablets were found, excavating in the royal palace of Ugarit. 20 years deciphering the tablets, it was possible to know the oldest written and found song in the world and instructions on how to interpret it on harp or lyre. It is estimated to be 3,400 years old and is a hymn dedicated to Nikkel, goddess of crops and fertility. In Greece, the epitaph of Psycholos is found, which is an inscription found on a marble column built by King Psycholos for his wife Euterpe, near Ephesus, Turkey. It is a melancholic song, which was discovered in 1883 and disappeared in 1922 during the Asia Minor Holocaust. Then it was found again, broken at its base, in the possession of a woman from the sector. Its base was cut down and used to support a flower pot. Today it is in the National Museum of Denmark. The Arabic maqam. The maqam means range, which is the system of traditional melodic modes, a type of melody. An improvisation tool that defines the development of a piece of music following patterns and pitches. There are more than 70 maqams, and they do not include the rhythmic component. Maqam scales are made of smaller series of consecutive notes, have a recognizable melody and express a distinctive atmosphere. Such series are called genes, which means gender or type. In most cases a genes is made of 3, 4, or 5 consecutive notes. Neumes. Neumes means psi. They are graphic signs that indicate to the performer the sound that the melodic line should take. The first manuscripts, dating from the 8th and 9th centuries, found in Aquitaine. Punctuation marks similar to those in our writing. They were placed above each syllable of the text. For example, the comma meant assent to the acute, the period, descent, the clivis, with accent, and assent followed by descent. Then, other signs were used and 8 basic neumes were reached that plus other signs give precision to the interpretation. Gongcha. It is a music notation for guqin, Chinese zither. It is written in the form of a Torah table, detailing tone, fingering and strumming technique, and a step-by-step method of the performance of the piece. The earliest surviving examples of printed tables date from the 12th century. An example is Jesher Diao Yulan song, meaning lonely orchid on stone tablet. It was composed during the 6th century and is possibly the oldest surviving piece written in the East. The tablature. They are special scripts for certain instruments and that, unlike the current musical notation, present only the positions on the instrument to interpret the melody, and not the durations of the tones. They are relatively easy to read and understand. The first appearance of tabla Torah dates back to 1300 in Europe. It was originally used for a single voice, and then it was applied to several instruments, such as the lute, vihuela, guitar, viola da gamba, harp, organ, harpsichord, and the harpsichord. Rongo Rongo. It is an enigma of the Rapa Nui culture, which is represented by the writing system carved on tablets for recitation and singing. Its signs, hieroglyphs, demonstrate the existence of a form of musical writing on the island and unique in its kind throughout Polynesia and the world. This writing system is not phonetic, that is, it is an ideographic system. Each sign represents people, dates, or activities. The signs on the tablets were busy to help remember chants, traditions, and genealogies. Here is a timeline to guide us. In the 3050 before writings we find in Egypt the Chironemia. In 1400 BC in Mesopotamia we have the Ugarit hymn. From the 120th after Christ we see in Greece the epitaph of Psycholos. In Arabia in 670 we find the maqam. In 1050 we find the neumes by the Gregorians. In China in the 1100s we found the ganj. In Europe in the 1300s there was the tablature. And on Easter Island in the 1680s is the rongo rongo. The score. The score was attributed to Guido of Arezzo, choir teacher from 992 to 1050. He studied at the convent of Pomposa, and taught a method to learn Gregorian chants in less time. This took the discord of other friars, so he decided to go to the city of Arezzo, where he wrote his musical treatise De Micrologus. He invented the hexachord. He improved musical writing by implementing horizontal lines that fixed the height of musical notes, the famous tetragram, later evolving to the staff. He baptized the notes of the solfege, based on the first syllables of each stanza of the hymn Ut Quent Laxus, hymn to St. John the Baptist. Each sentence began with a note of the scale, to remember the notes. In this way he created an associative technique. Then the note Ut was changed to C. The exclusive code. The score has been exclusivity for elites of society, especially, the only ones who dominated and understood in the Middle Ages. This system were its creators, the Gregorian monks. Since its inventor Guido, apparently he wanted his musical reading systems to be understood only by his students, to stand out from other opposing friars' choirs. A clear example of this exclusivity is El Miserere Medeus, created by Gregorio Allegri in the 17th century during the pontificate of Pope Urban VIII. It is the setting to music of Psalm 51 of the Old Testament. It was composed to be sung only in the Sistine Chapel during the Wednesdays and Fridays of Holy Week. At first, a ban was imposed on the execution of the work outside the Sistine Chapel, and anyone who copied it was even threatened with excommunication. In 1770, when Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was only 14 years old, after listening to the work only once, he transcribed it to paper from memory, and then made corrections to it a second time. This fact is widely remembered as a sign of Mozart's genius, who was even made a Knight of the Order of the Golden Spur by the Pope upon learning of the fact. The copy of Mozart, with the improvisations, has not been preserved. Don't miss part 2 and don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell.